From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. It's our post-podcast live stream. Make sure, obviously, everyone stays tuned for the podcast that drops tomorrow. But welcome, and we encourage you to be interactive here. Ask questions. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're right. Don't be afraid to get in our faces during the live stream here. Guys, let's jump into it. Let's talk about esports and gaming.
What we do here is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in this industry.
The live stream's getting bigger!
I know.
Make sure you go buy William's book, The Book of Esports, which it's killing it on Amazon as always. I think everyone has it by now, but if you don't, go buy it. And even if you do, maybe go buy a second copy, you know.
Nothing says I love my mom and dad like the Book of Esports.
And on the after show, we cover all the stuff that just didn't make it into the podcast. It's still just as good. It's just as interesting. It's maybe even better because we get to interact with you guys.
Ghost Runner, I managed to fit that in with about the busiest week of work I've ever had. So anytime
priorities, right?
It's an anti-William is late device.
That's very effective.
Don't count on it though.
Risky. Hot garbage. It's an indicator of bad money management. It's an indicator of immature management.
I have some hot takes.
For the vast majority of people who game, and look, if you look at just the gaming market, the dollar in revenue of the $137 billion global gaming market, $70 billion of that is mobile. $70 billion. For those guys, this is a revolution.
Listening. Thank you for tuning in every week. Thank you for leaving those 5-star ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. This is the Business of Esports podcast.
The fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, Prophet of Esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the Book of Esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the Prophet and William as the Professor. From the keyboard room is the Business of Esports after show live stream. For those of you who are new to the after show live stream, what we do here is we cover everything that didn't make it into the podcast, all the stuff that we couldn't fit into that sort of 1 hour of goodness. It's just as interesting, just as exciting. We still dissect, we still analyze all the business implications of everything happening around that news. For those of you guys who are new to the live stream, welcome. We encourage you to participate, to ask questions, to challenge us. And if you're a regular here, thank you for being here every week. Thank you for telling your friends about the live stream. This is how we continue to grow it. You guys may notice it's just me and Jeff right now. William is coming. I know this because we just taped the podcast, but he is late as always. And Lindsay will probably be joining us a little bit later. Jeff, how's it going? How was your week?
Good. Yeah, I was like confused. It's just the two of us. It's interesting. And you'll notice I'm in a little different background. I
was going to say, what happened here?
I got moved from the bedroom to the main room, which is a little bit more spacious. So it's nice.
Very good.
I wanted to, go to sleep early. So it makes sense.
Martin noticed. He says Jeff has migrated to the living room. The question is, did you migrate or were you forced?
I was forced. And this is technically her desk. So I'm just using her computer. So I still got the shitty room and, whatever, just for tonight.
You sound
chair as well. So this is great.
Well, you sound better. So you should always use your wife's computer, if you ask me.
Yeah, she's probably got better, microphone and all that. She's got all the good stuff.
Look who we've got. William, welcome. Super on time as always.
I thought the intro would cover for me. I literally was like, okay, 5 minutes, I can make this. And I ran to go say goodnight to my kids. But I'm here now, though. I'm a legend.
This is what's important.
Jeff, you doing okay, buddy? I heard you were a little under the weather.
Well, I'm okay. So what William's referred to. William, revealing now to the live.
Oh, I'm not revealing anything. You don't have to talk about it.
My wife and I have COVID. We tested positive, but I'm completely asymptomatic, and she's got like just a little, cold or whatever. But yeah, I think.
Okay, just for safety's sake, I'm gonna do this. I mean, I just for social distancing reasons. I'm sorry, Jeff. I don't
through the live stream, but
I mean, I'm being safe. I'm playing it safe just in case. And for chat, don't worry. You're far to the right. You are well past sort of away 6 feet from Jeff. Hopefully you guys get better, but thank you for doing this while you're feeling under the weather.
I actually feel 100% fine.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's kind of nuts, like being asymptomatic, because you find out you have this, potentially super scary virus, but you feel fine. So it's super it's like a mind fuck to some extent.
Let's talk about what was on the podcast, guys. Let me just give a quick sneak peek at what was on. Venelin says, I'm distancing from you so hard. It's literally 3:30 a.m. here. Venelin, you are distancing not only in space, but also in time. And that's just prudent. So well done. Let's talk about what was on the podcast this week, guys, what you can expect tomorrow. We talked a bunch about Cyberpunk. I don't know if we can avoid talking about it also on the live stream. If you guys want to talk about it, we can also talk about it on the live stream. We talked more about Cyberpunk, the people who were happy and the people who were unhappy. We talked about Tencent making a $1.5 billion acquisition, buying basically the group of studios that includes the studio that produced that makes Warframe. We talked about EA topping Take-Two's bid to buy Codemasters for over $1.2 billion.
That's a good one. We should talk about that one, maybe.
You want to talk about that one?
Well, we're not talking about it right now, but that is a pretty topical.
And then we did this story, which was interesting. There was this study that was done, and the conclusion of the study was that 77% of North American gamers are keen to attend in-person esports events ASAP. And then on the flip side, 79% of event venues were interested in hosting competitive gaming. So an interesting study there, which, again, happy to touch on any of these things, guys, during the live stream. If you want them, just shout it out in the chat, and we will talk about it.
I want to talk about Cyberpunk, just so you guys give me the pat on the back. Last week, a mere 7 exact days ago, I said that stock is going to be down 25 to 30%.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be over several months. Turns out, it came true within a week. So that was pretty prophetic, if you will.
I mean, I don't want to take all the credit, but it must be me rubbing off on you, Jeff. Like, I think it's every week doing the live stream. You've acquired powers that you don't realize.
I also want to say, Jeff, we actually shouted you out on the podcast.
Yeah. We're just kidding.
It.
Jeff did call it.
But you did call it. Like, you were like exactly right. Like, it was like literally, like I was this close to texting you the login to my retirement account and being like, good luck, you'll do better with it than I can.
I just throw it all in GMBL. A diversified portfolio of esports entertainment assets.
Hey, if the acquirer does the diversification for you. It's like,
exactly. So before we get to Cyberpunk, Mark asked a question, and it is related to sort of this topic this topic that we covered on the podcast. So let me just get to this and then we'll talk Cyberpunk. Jeff, Mark asked, hi everyone, what are your thoughts about the rise of gaming lounges? Are they a short-term fad or a longer-term trend? What do you guys think? I mean, both of you are somewhat
levered against the space.
Or biased, I should say, not conflicted, biased in this answer. But, thoughts on that?
William, you can go first if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we actually literally also covered this on the podcast when we talked about, I think you're alluding to this, Paul, that 77% of gamers say they want to attend live events immediately. Which is, it's not a fad, guys. It's like, it would be like saying Starbucks was a fad. Remember when Starbucks first started to pop up and people are like, oh, like, how's that? That's a trend. That's not going to be here. Like, it's these third place businesses that fit into cultural zeitgeists become touch points. They come to define generations, like bowling alleys defined, the 70s, right? Or like pinball machines define this, pinball arcades define the 60s. Like, our generation is defined by gaming. Gaming lounges are going to be a big thing. Like, I mean, this is like human nature, right? Like, human beings want to congregate. So I don't think this is not a short-term fad, right? Gaming lounges are not going anywhere. I think the bigger question mark for me is, how do you execute on them successfully, right? Yes.
Is it 2 or 3 giant ones? Is it, 10,000 across the country on every corner? Is it somewhere in between, right? I think success or failure in that space is going to come down to what is the overall strategy, and then how well do you execute on it? And I think certain strategies will probably win and certain won't, but definitely a long-term trend in my mind that they're not going anywhere. Because look, I mean, that study says it all. In that study, it actually said 17% of the people surveyed had never been to an in-person esports thing ever, right? Yet 77% were keen to attend one. So there's demand for it, and I think there will always be demand to get together with your friends in person to experience or play or hang out. I mean, that has never gone anywhere, will never go anywhere in my mind. Jeff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both hit the nail on the head perfectly. I mean, William, in his eloquent professor-like way, I think articulated, the cultural zeitgeist and the yearning for gamers to actually be social, which is maybe surprising to some people, probably not surprising to anyone watching the live stream, because you're literally passionate about gaming and you're watching a live stream where you are connecting with us. So, you're clearly a social being as well. But I think William, hit that one perfectly. And then Paul, I think you're also absolutely right in the sense of it's going to be about who executes it right and does it really with, prudently from the capital perspective. If you're spending $20 million building an esports stadium that's elaborate and has 20,000 seats, and you think you're going to fill it every week with Ninja and Shroud, you're going to lose money. You're going to, very quickly lose money.
You're going to have a tougher time. Let's put it that way.
You're going to struggle. But if you're building these for, less than $1 million and you're getting smart, leases where you're not, committing to a ton of money up front and maybe percentage of rent, doing it in a way that's intelligent, I think there's absolutely a place for this. And I'm personally super bullish on that industry.
Mark, I don't know if that answered your question, but he said, I'm focusing on community building for mine. As you keep saying, the market is there. We just want to build the community up. Yeah, I think focusing on community is one of those ways. one of those strategies that could end up working well. Chris says, Chris, I don't know what you're referring to. I got to be a bit more specific there.
Shout out to Chris and I had a good chat this week. We caught up, so it's always good, to talk to people who are kind of on the live stream engaging. It was fun to catch up with him. So, to reach out as well.
Do we talk about Cyberpunk, guys?
I mean, I could talk about.
I should have covered everything I wanted to cover with it. To be honest, I was kind of joking around. We talked about it a lot last time, and you guys
we spend like half an hour on it on the podcast.
It was too much of the podcast. I couldn't shut up.
They're in a lot of trouble. Let's leave it there.
But I like the game. I can't resist standing up. I like the game.
Are you buying the dip, Jeff? I asked.
No, I think I'll revise that promise. I think the stock's down another 40% within 6 months. Because here's why. What's the next catalyst? Right? If you're a public market investor, you buy
another game or online.
Well, exactly. That's the problem. Particularly with with gaming stocks, it's always the moniker is you buy the rumors, sell the news. It's maybe not super unique phrase, but like it really is true with these gaming stocks. What's the next big headline or big positive catalyst for CD Projekt? Literally like the DLC that's probably coming in a year and a half because now they have to fix the actual game. Yeah, it's just they're in a lot of trouble.
Well, that was even there. They did some emergency board call where I think some of it leaked or it was out. I don't know, but like one of the investors was like, they're like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We need to put more resources on Cyberpunk to fix this." And they're like, "What is on Witcher 4? What is on Cyberpunk 2? What is on any other?" And like it's sort of a point. Is like it's like you've now added 8 years to the game's life cycle in development. Anyway.
I will say, one thing I'll add before we move on. I mean, a lot of times, people like yourselves or people who are passionate gamers like to, rip on and hate on the EAs, the Activision Blizzards, the Take-Twos of the world. But, there's something to be said for those companies that do a good job getting games out on a yearly basis, particularly EA. I don't think they get nearly enough credit for getting games out on time, and the games are like relatively fine. And people will probably maybe push back on that a little bit, but think about it. When's the last time Madden or FIFA missed a year? And you could say, oh, they make the same game every year. But the thing is, they never miss. And that's why they're a $40 billion stock.
No, it's a fair point. Or like even when and it's not just that's not all that's coming out of EA, right? It's not like those are the 2 games they make every year and then stop, right? These are big, Paul and I were talking about it. They have conservatively, the publishers have 1 major release a quarter, conservatively, right? So we were doing the CDPL math on that. That meant like even CDPL growing $500 million. If you do 7 years times 4 quarterly releases, that's like a $15 million game. That's how much ground they had to make up with this thing. And that's what I mean about the risk of being a single title studio right now is, at least a publicly traded single title studio, is the economics don't support it. You have to be able, games are becoming a service industry. You have to manage your company like a service.
Greg says, do we know if people are asking for their money back? Greg, they are. This is a whole other, we didn't go down this rabbit hole on the podcast, but like returning of digital goods like a game, if you're dissatisfied, this is a whole other problem discussion. I think people should be asking for their money back and should get it, but I don't know how it's going to be handled. But there's go read the Cyberpunk Reddit, like subreddit. It's insane how negative the tone is. Chris says my was in full agreement with Cohen and Collis. Also hand the profit mantle over to Jeff. Chris, you do realize I can ban you from the chat. And in my defense, to be clear, just for the doubters, the haters, the ones who think I should be handing this over, I was calling Cyberpunk being a dud long before anyone else. And William knows this because I didn't like The Witcher 3. I thought this was massively overhyped. I knew this was going to be a bad deal for them. All I said was, I don't know if it's going to be 30% bad. If you remember, I said on the live stream, maybe 15 or 20, but Jeff had the right number, but I had been calling this long before anyone else. So I'm going to keep the profit mantle if you'll allow me. Martin says they delayed the game that final time to deal with it launching. on old and new gen consoles. Surely they could have seen in that time it wasn't ready for last gen. Martin, it's like you've listened to the podcast already. We also talk about this, and I think they also purposely delayed it so they could sell twice as many. Look, let me sum up my thoughts. The game ran fine. I mean, I have a crazy, the best PC basically money can buy. And the game ran just fine. I ran into maybe a few bugs. Fundamentally, the game just wasn't fun. It should have been a movie, not a game. It should have been like a 2.5-hour movie. It would have been a much better format. No one would have been disappointed. Everyone would have.
Paul, that is so true, because I cannot think of a single example of a video game made into a movie where it hasn't turned out incredibly well.
You didn't need to turn the video. Don't make video game. Just take all the cutscenes.
I know.
And make it a movie.
I know. I'm looking at you, Monster Hunter, with your ad. Who asked for that? Who thought that was what a Monster Hunter movie should be?
It's true. It's true.
Sorry.
We're actually going to get
right,
to movies in one of our topics this week. Mm-hmm. So let's move on. Jeff, did you want to talk about the Codemasters one first before we jump into topics?
Did you cover it enough in the podcast? Because if you did, that's fine. I mean, I just think it's interesting. I'm curious. What I'm curious about, one, I think there's so much interesting, business things you could talk about in terms of just the gaming space. But if you kind of zoom in more to just esports, I mean, I'm curious. What does this do for the racing game esports scene? We also saw there was a mobile racing game studio that was acquired. I think it's called Hutch. So, are racing games like having a little bit of a moment right now? Is that because of esports? That's kind of what I wanted to get into. I don't know if that's what you talked about on the podcast.
We did. we did, in fact. And we talked about how F1 was having a huge resurgence because of the Netflix special, the Drive to Survive. And now all of a sudden there's this huge surge of sort of new F1 fans or old F1 fans that have come back. Plus how it fits perfectly into the EA Sports portfolio, right? Like it feels like a very natural, synergistic kind of acquisition. I think the takeaway was, without giving away too much, is none of us really talked about valuation, right? These were all like over $1 billion.
It was they paid like 30 times EBITDA.
But it was sort of like all three of us, because we our guest this week was Neil Duffy, the great Neil Duffy, by the way. If you don't follow him, if you don't listen to him, if you one of the smartest guys operating in the space today. He's the chief commercial officer for Collegiate Star League. I mean, the take was like these publishers are in just such demand, right? And if you look at past acquisitions of publishers like a Minecraft, or compared to the public valuations of like a Roblox, right? Potential public valuation of a Roblox, all these acquisitions at $1 billion seem reasonable all of a sudden. Yeah. And so, it wasn't a long conversation on valuation. It was more on what's the fit, and then comparing the two, the Tencent one versus the F1 one. So I encourage everyone to tune in tomorrow. If we want to talk about it more, we'll come back to it at the end of the podcast, at the end of the live stream, I should say, because we do have a lot to cover, including Roblox, who's back in the news. Roblox this past week made, I think, was a surprise announcement that they were going to delay their IPO until next year. And so according to this SEC disclosure, they're delaying their IPO. The date is not set, but it is being delayed. When next year, we don't know. Jeff, why did this happen?
So as I understand it, so actually I can maybe pull that back up. I was going to read, because it pretty much said exactly why,
Hold on. There's what they claim, which I don't really believe.
I think that is what, basically the way I understand it, they looked at, DoorDash and Airbnb, their, public market debuts, and they were up, over 175% or 200%, which, for those of you who don't understand how IPOs work, when you see that big pop, basically that's the company leaving money on the table, because they could have sold less shares and raised the same amount of money, or sold the same amount of shares, raised more money.
But the bankers and their clients are super happy.
Right. Yeah, the bankers. The bankers are just, that's the bankers winning, is what that is. But yeah.
Well, technically the bankers shouldn't necessarily care. They get paid the same amount if they raise the same amount of money. But they get the green shoe. It probably works out well for the bankers. But it is a signal. IPOs going up that much is a little bit of a signal of a broken deal or a bad deal.
Let me stop you, Jeff, for a second, because I've talked about this previously on the podcast. I've explained it in detail that when this happens, that it's been mispriced and that there's greed somewhere or forces somewhere that were not foreseen, right? But let me just read the reason they gave, because this is not what they said, right? What they said was, based on everything, I'm quoting exactly here. Based on everything we have learned to date, we feel there's an opportunity to improve our specific process for employees, shareholders, and future investors, both big and small.
Well, what that means, they're probably going to either explore a SPAC or direct listing. Probably, if I had to guess, a direct listing. Because then you just list the shares. You don't actually sell stock, and there's a little bit more price discovery. So you don't see as big a pops. But my takeaway, stepping back from the minutia of why they're doing this, I think it's a risky move. I mean, they're being cute, and I get it to some extent, but who knows what's going to happen in the next 2-3 months. I think when you have a chance to get out, and the IPO market's so hot right now, and you're talking about the valuations that they're looking to achieve, it just seems to me like you're putting a lot of risk that something bad could happen in the next 2-3 months, and you don't get what you think you were going to get. So I would have just gone ahead and done it when the demand was there, but maybe I'm risk averse. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I think, and then it was also weird that they had bought something right in advance of their IPO, right?
That was the other story we were going to cover.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second acquisition.
The second acquisition. I'm referencing,
right? Because we talked about Embellis last week, and then this week they acquired this 3D facial animation firm Loom.ai. So they've been buying again. Right before your IPO, it's weird to be making acquisitions.
Yeah.
I also called that last week where I said buying Embellis is weird if you're going to just about to go public. Making any acquisitions weird if you're just about to go public. And so maybe that was some foreshadowing that they knew they weren't going to go public. But another acquisition here, clearly, no plans to go public in the very, very short term when you're buying stuff like this. William, I don't know if you wanted to comment on this acquisition specifically.
Well, I want to comment on the acquisition in the context of the delay, because I have a little bit of a hot take theory here, which it kind of combines the acquisition with Jeff's point about the pricing. So basically, why do you buy a facial animation company, right? Let's be honest, Roblox is not known for extensively well-modeled faces. This is not LA Noire here, right? They're doing metaverse-style acquisitions, guys. This and the other one are all, what would you want to buy if you were going metaversey? Human face stuff and, human assessment tools. Right? Those. Sorry.
No, but I see where you're going, William. I just don't disagree completely, right?
These let me get there. Because I want to then disagree. But imagine somebody says to them, and this hypothetical, okay, you can go public as a games company, you'll get this multiple, or you could go public as a next generation, metaverse company or something, right? And, that has this multiple, and everyone says, I want that multiple. That's where we're going to go. And they say, well, okay, you might need to do a couple things to shore up that story. That kind of combines the Jeff piece with the acquisition piece, because it's maybe they're aiming for a bigger high. They don't know quite how to price it. And to top it all off, they also don't have quite all the pieces to tell the story they want. So it's all of that knitted together. And I know it doesn't. I know you're going to say it doesn't make sense, Paul. So tell me it doesn't make sense. Go.
No, it in theory, your theory is solid, right? In practice, the institutional investors who are buying this IPO have no clue the difference between gaming, metaverse. You're assuming there's this knowledgeable that they're going to go, oh, this is so much more valuable now. I mean, that's just not the reality, right? This is going to be gaming for them, and it will still be gaming for them 3 months from now, even if they make 10 other acquisitions like this. I really seriously doubt anything they're going to do now is going to drive any perceived increase in value of the company. I think truly the challenge here was we did a roadshow, we sold this IPO, right, at X dollars per share. And now we realize the markets are super frothy. We think we can get 2x, right? we can't just go back and reprice this IPO. It's too messy. It's too difficult. So we'll let 3 or 4 months pass, and then we'll go public at the 2x price. That's their hope. That's the play.
I see what you're saying. So they got anchored here. Right. They realized it could be here.
Exactly. So William, just to kind of counteract your point, I mean, they were not shy in their S1. I just pulled it up. They talk about the metaverse all throughout this. I mean, the first sentence of the third paragraph of their S1 is, some refer to our category as the metaverse, a term often used to describe the concept of a persistent shared 3D virtual world. So it's like they weren't hiding that they're, doing this metaverse, fake stuff, if you will, already. So, I don't think that these acquisitions, they might be leading to that, but I don't think they're doing them saying, hey, we're going to reposition ourselves as this platform, this metaverse.
You're saying they're already positioned that way.
They already were doing that. And you're already going to get some ridiculous valuation anyway. I think this is more like they kind of just looked at and say, hey, these companies are leaving a ton of money on the table, and the IPO market seems broken currently from a company perspective. I just think it's really risky, right? Because, especially if you do a direct listing, I mean, those sometimes go down. Like, look at Slack. Didn't that one go way down when they did it? Like,
it's not just that, right? Trying to time perfection, whether public markets or private markets, is usually a recipe for failure, right? Like, I see this with startups all the time, right? Someone comes along, says, we'll give you 50 million for your company. And they go, no, maybe if we wait another year, we can get 75. And then that year passes, some recession hits the broader market, and then your business is worth 20, right? Not 50. And so trying to time perfection is virtually impossible.
And the weird thing is, it's one thing, sorry to cut you off, Paul. It's one thing.
No, it's okay.
If the market is soft, it's like, hey, we don't know if there's enough demand right now, we're going to pull back and wait. That's sort of risky. They're doing it because the market's too hot. They're like, oh, things are going up too much. We don't want our stock to go up too much. That's when you're getting a little too cute. It's like, just put it out there, have the stock triple, and your employees will be rich as hell and everyone will be happy. How is that a bad outcome?
I mean, the bigger question mark is at some point, the bankers look, because the bankers win, right? First of all, let's say it's Goldman underwriting this IPO, right? They are holding stock that they offer to their clients, right? Yeah. And if that stock pops 100% on day one, their clients that whose wealth they manage are super happy with Goldman, right? So they like these IPOs and underwriting them for a lot of reasons. The question is, at some point, do the companies who are hiring the bankers go, wait a second, guys, are you underpricing this a little bit, right? In frothy times, you'd think Roblox would have some sense of the comparables, what they should be priced at, right?
Here's a question for you guys, and Chris actually will bring this to the chat because Chris kind of talks about this, but how much of these IPO pops is due to Robinhood? Because, the IPO model, there is always that gamesmanship where, the bankers want there to be a pop, so the companies do, quote unquote, leave a little bit on the table, but that's just the way the game works. But, with Robinhood and this rise of the retail investor, is it possible that the bankers are pricing the stock as they normally would, as the institutional investors see it? Hey, Roblox is worth 15 billion. That's what T. Rowe thinks it's worth. That's what Fidelity thinks it's worth. And then all these retail guys, the first day, they don't think about it. They're not thinking about invest. They're like, oh, Roblox, I know Roblox, great. Boom, now it's worth 30 billion, but there's no real reason.
Your point is a great one, Jeff.
The bankers aren't talking to a bunch of Robinhood people.
If you're right, which I think you might be, right? In fact, I think you are. This is the worst trend in all of investing in a while, because the reality is, and we touched on this on the podcast a little bit, right? Today, everyone with a Robinhood account is making money, right? So everyone sort of sits back and goes, oh, pro investor, right? This is easy. I put money in stocks and they all go up. The reality is, it's not an easy game. Most of these people in the long run will lose money, right? Because there's 1,000 Goldman traders on the other side with billions of dollars of supercomputers.
I mean, I saw someone tweeting, a guy I knew, I used to work with him. I don't think he's now in the startup world, but he used to be a trader. And he did a big tweet storm. And the first tweet was, I took, in March of this year, I took $80,000 and started day trading options. I'm up I'm up 19 times my money right now. Here's what I learned. And I was like, what?
You didn't.
Like, here's what you learned. You learned you should like pray, thank your lucky stars, and like buy an apartment. Like, you're literally day trading options and you're up 19x in 8 months. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not market compensated risk.
I have an analogous story, and it's a story from Vegas, and I always remember this moment because it sort of has stuck in my head as an investing lesson, even though it happened when I was standing at I was gambling at a craps table in Vegas, right? And so here I am, I'm gambling, right?
Like
I'm standing.
We have to play craps.
And
together.
And so I'm playing craps, right? And this guy, it's maybe 2 a.m. This guy who's totally wasted, right, walks up to the craps table, puts $300 on, I think, one of the dumbest bets on the table. Like he was going to hit a hard whatever, right? Yeah. Hard 10 or whatever. And like one of the least probable bets to win on that entire table, he sort of drunkenly puts $300 on, and it hits, right? And he's like quadrupled or quintupled his money, and he walks away with all this cash. And the croupier looks at me and goes, "This guy, I guarantee by the end of the night is completely broke," right? This is the worst thing that has happened to him, because it's this false sense of like security that no matter what bet you make, you're a winner every time. This is what's happening in public markets right now, right? Everyone with a Robin account is winning on every bet they make, no matter how improbable. What were you going to say, Wayne? Sorry.
Although, isn't it like the Jack Welch school of investing? Was it Jack Welch or Peter Lynch? I can't remember. One of those people who's like Peter Lynch. Yeah, I think it's Peter Lynch. Who's like, Jack Welch is GE. Sorry, that was really dumb. I'm going to like censor myself after this. But it was like, wasn't his whole thing like buy what you know? Right, this idea of like, look, if you know, I think he had an example of like pantyhose companies of like, if you know pantyhose, buy pantyhose, you'll do well with it. It's better to put your like, isn't that what's happening with Robinhood? Like, isn't it better that somebody like a dad sees that their kid is playing Roblox all the time and is like, that's a pretty cool company, I should put my like, isn't that actually a more accurate distribution of trends in the market? If people are buying the businesses that they use and they think are hot and they see mattering in their lives, like I like it's definitely true that there's fair weather friendship here, but I also feel that there's a serious pop. Like some of the pop is real, that like some of these businesses, like if people are consuming them, like the consumers are the best arbiter of consumer taste. I don't have a huge problem with the Robinhood effect.
No, definitely it should be part of any investment process. I mean, it's a great way to get ideas. And like, if someone said, hey, my kids are playing a lot of, Call of Duty Warzone, this game seems to be doing well. And then they backed it up. They looked at Activision and said, hey, I think their earnings per share is going to be this because they're, I see that of my kids' 10 friends, 8 of them have bought the battle pass, and I did some more research and blah, 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 and you dug in and you looked at valuation, historical versus, it's a start. Just buying Roblox at any, is Roblox worth $200 billion?
Or just buying it because it's an IPO, right? And the reality is the Robinhood investors also aren't getting the IPO price, right? Let's be clear. The only people getting that price are the institutions, the underwriters, and their clients. Like that's about it. Hold on. Let me actually, let's get Lindsay in here.
The fun has arrived.
Welcome, Lindsay. I did promise you were going to be here, but just late. It's great. You made William look early.
You're welcome.
Lindsay, you have such energy at like 9 o'clock at night. You're like, that's what we should call you, Lindsay the Party Poss. That should be your nickname.
Okay, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I was thinking the Star, but that'll work.
Just be careful, Lindsay. Jeff has COVID, so don't get too close.
Jeff, what are we gonna do with you? Jeez Louise.
I just want to read some of these comments here. Greg says, but if you read the S1, it definitely does not explain the game to an unknowledgeable investor. Yeah, that's true. So I would assume their institutional investors have some level of sophistication, but they're not. I don't think any of them are going to look at acquisitions as being sort of that are going to change the pricing in any material way over the next month or two, unless they make some huge acquisition. But these are all pretty small. Greg says it is the metaverse platform. Sounds like Bitcoin investors who become hedge fund managers. Yeah. All of a sudden, everyone's an expert. Martin says, what an entrance. Welcome, Lindsay.
Yeah, you were on that, Lindsay.
Okay, let's move on from Roblox. I think we talked about them enough. This one's an interesting story here. This one is from techraptor.net, and the headline is NPD numbers show $70 games haven't weakened sales. The article goes on to talk about how they posted their market survey for November. That included releases like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, so no Cyberpunk numbers in here. And basically, the numbers are very strong, and the pricing the games at $70 did not hurt their sales at all. So they sold as well or better than they had done before when they were $60. And so it seems, just let me give you some numbers here. Hardware spending increased, total industry spending was up. So overall, everything was up in November, including software sales at the higher price point. Are any of you surprised by this news that the increase, because we had touched on it briefly, we had some thoughts on it. I think the overall conclusion was gamers are not going to care. And it seems to be the case, but I'm curious if any of you are surprised that the price increase has not affected sales.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, first of all, not a surprise at all. Like, I think this was, I said before, I think game publishers are leaving money on the table. Now they're leaving less money on the table. Like, every other consumer good increases with inflation except for games. Like, we've been stuck at $60 for like all time. So, but the other point about this is like, aren't all the $70 games next gen? I don't think there's $70 on last gen, right? Isn't everything 70?
I think you're correct. Yes.
So the other thing is too, like, even if there were price sensitivity, you certainly wouldn't expect to see it with the early segment adopters, right? Like, so it's a little bit like, even though the data is there and it doesn't surprise me, I also don't think this data is reliable at all. Because it's just like, of the few people who bought launch day PS5s, they didn't care that they had to pay $70 for the game that goes in it. Yeah, they bought a launch day PS5. They're doing fine for cash. And what else were they supposed to do? Not buy any games to put in their PS5? Like, so I don't think this is a real data point. But when the real data comes out, we will see that $70 price had no impact on sales volume.
I mean, do you guys not agree? If you want to play Call of Duty, you're going to pay whatever Call of Duty costs.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Like,
I think Mark brought up a good point, and actually, it's basically the same point William made. I mean, these are launch titles, right? So these are the marquee, biggest games that, like you said, if you want to play Call of Duty, you're going to buy Call of Duty. The question is, will the second, third tier games be able to get away with this? And that, I think, becomes a little bit of a different story. That's where you'll start to see people go more towards Game Pass and some of the subscription offerings, because that incremental $10 can make a difference if you're on the fence. Do I get this fifth game of the, in the year when I already have Madden, Call of Duty, FIFA, and Watch Dogs or something like, do I get that next title? It can make an incremental difference. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually was just reading an investor's report today that basically said the $70 is a good short-term strategy, but how it affects the long-term is not worth, talking about right now, because basically we'll see how it plays out. But the thing that I also think is interesting is just the market in general. Everyone is buying stuff. We see with graphics cards and PCs and all kinds of even niche things that are just selling out like crazy because everyone has time and a little bit of extra cash now over the holidays, or the people that do have extra cash are spending it. So I'll be curious to see, like, when the world opens up, if people care more about how much their launch titles cost.
can we just push this to a hypothetical extreme? At what dollar point, like today, I bet we could put games at $80 on the next gen consoles, and people who want to play Call of Duty will still pay $80. Does that hold true at 90, at 100, at 110? Like, at what point does
Paul,
psychologically?
You're so smart, right? Like, because that is the interesting question. It's not, could the market bear and price a price increase to 70? It's Like, when is the price increase too
Yeah,
much?
where do the
And
curves the
Yeah,
curve
where's
meet,
the
right?
happy point?
yeah, I got basic advice for you here, which is it's human psychological breakpoints, right? So I think you could comfortably price this all the way up to 85, 90 without issue. I'm quite serious. It's when you start getting to that 95, 99, 99, 99 price point that you hit another psychological breakpoint. Like, and that's when you're going to have an issue driving. Then consumers are going to look and they're going to say, well, is this game really worth two other ones, right? But you don't observe this behavior regularly. Like, nobody goes on Steam and goes, I have $60 to spend. Oh, good. Let me look for two $30 games. You buy the game you want to buy. And if the game you want to buy is a little pricey, you wait for it to go on promotion. But your decisions are made by the game, and not like the only decision really made around gaming is like the purchase delay decision, nothing else. So yeah, I think you're going to see 80 next year, 85. I don't think you'll ever see 90, 95. I think they won't risk it. It's too close to, like I said, the split. But I think it's going to keep going up based on
60 is pretty arbitrary, isn't it? Like, there's no exact reason that it was always 60 anyway. So
No,
so
don't think
arbitrary.
so. Is there any history there, William? Or
yeah,
That's a really interesting question. I honestly don't know. And I got to look that up because there has to be. It's too weird of a number to like
right.
60. Yeah. Like, it's like nothing is $60. Like, there's not another thing sold for $60 where you're like, oh, $60, that's what it should cost. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, good. I mean, like a nice bottle of wine is $60. I mean, I have no idea. Like, there's not a there's got to be a price story for that. I'm going to have an answer next time. I'm super interested.
Yes.
Martin says, bit soon to say with 70 games, the $70 games, though, as this is launch titles. Yeah, exactly, Martin. People want new games for their new consoles. Whether every game can go at this price a few years later is another story. I think we all agree with that. Chris says, I spent $90 on an SNES Street Fighter Turbo in 1992. $91 is my breakpoint. Chris, I don't believe you. If it was $92, you would still pay it because it's only $1 more. And Greg says, what do you expect from skills tomorrow? That's a good question, Greg. Well, what do you, William?
Is tomorrow
Jeff?
the first day they're trading as skills?
What's that?
Is tomorrow the first?
Yes, it is.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm not entirely clear how you translate what it's trading as a SPAC to what it's trading at, when they actually de-SPAC. But it'll be interesting to see what the market cap is and kind of get a sense of the valuation, because it's an interesting comp for EEG.
And what do you think the market cap's going to be?
I think I saw somewhere saying it was going to be like 8 billion, which seems really high, but maybe five-ish.
I mean, they have almost $1 billion of funding, like of cash, right?
Yeah.
So
still crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing 200 million in revenue. It's not like they're like doing $1 billion. That's 200 million in revenue, 8 billion market cap. That's like 30 times.
but what's Unity trading at now, right?
Unity is different, right? It's a subscription business. It's a software business.
Yeah, but
I think say Skills is a software business. I think you could argue that.
$1 billion times more than I'd buy Skills.
Unity's at an almost $40 billion market cap. I think their revenue is only about 500 million. I think it's about double, right? So there is a case to be made that Skills could be trading at $20 billion.
Time to delay the
market.
IPO. Not too late. Push it out for 3 months.
With Unity's got like 60% market share. Actually, it's probably higher market share.
No, about half the market.
But that's the problem. That's the problem with Unity, is I've said they have half market share and they're making $500,000.
But very dominant in mobile, which is where Skills also plays.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I don't know if there's going to be enough big developers that are going to get on the Skills platform, whereas they all use Unity.
Yeah. Look, Greg, your point is a good one, right? If they're talking about it as the first mobile esports platform, the hype may carry this to extraordinary sort of kind of numbers. I think there is like a $10 billion break point here, though, right? It's either going to be under 10 or it's going to be some crazy number like 20, right? I don't know if there's any sort of scenario in between, is my sense. but we'll see. It should be an interesting one. Martin says, I think multiplayer games could get away with the higher pricing as people want to play when the scene is healthiest. That's true, right? They want it right away. They don't want to wait. And so they're more willing to pay. Guys, let's move on. We were talking about Call of Duty. There was another Call of Duty story, and this one is so strange, like really strange. And William knows I have a hot take on this one. I want to talk about it. This is from GiveMeSport.com. It's Activision banning a 6-year-old Call of Duty Warzone prodigy during his live stream. There's a video basically of him. Actually, I don't think you guys can hear the sound, but it doesn't matter. So there's this video of him getting banned and the kid and his father who sort of monitors his live streams. And the kid is pretty upset about it. The dad seems more upset about it. And the mother who walks in at the end is definitely upset about it. What do you guys make of this situation? I mean, we talked about this last week. You have to be 13 to be on any of these platforms, including Call of Duty. Why is a 6-year-old playing Call of Duty? Are you okay with this? Are you not? Is this bad for Activision Blizzard, bad for business potentially, which is why they banned him? I'm curious what you guys think.
I saw the story and actively did not click on it because I didn't want to think about it.
Well, now you have to, Lindsay.
Thank you for forcing me to think about it this evening. So happy.
Lindsay, you're so great. I love having you here.
Okay, I'll give you guys my hot take. Here's my hot take, okay? Activision bans this 6-year-old prodigy, not because he's 6 years old. He got banned because he was cheating, which is why he's a prodigy. That I guarantee you this ban was because he was using some kind of aimbot and Activision Blizzard caught on.
Assist, of course.
No, this is not aim assist. I think the kid was actually cheating. I don't think he was cheating. I think his parents set it up because this got a lot of attention. He had a lot of views on YouTube. And so, my sense is the parents were cheating to make their kid look like this prodigy at Call of Duty so they could cash in on the YouTube videos and live streams.
Here a couple things. First of all, one, it does explain why he's a prodigy, as Paul and I were joking around. Two is, and I literally Googled this before. I think there's even a deeper thing here, which is I just think it's against terms of service.
It is.
You have to be 13. Yeah, 13. Yeah, 13. It's just there's a whole stuff. But then the other piece about it is look, as a parent, I really struggle with what age to introduce what video games to my kids, right? Moment heart to heart here, guys, because I love games and I was sometimes not allowed to play games when I was younger that my parents thought were too violent, and it bugged me. And I don't think it was the right choice. I probably could have handled some of the stuff that they thought, like Mortal Kombat. I could have handled Mortal Kombat, guys. Come on. But also it really is a tough choice because you want to expose your children to the media, but there really is stuff is shown too early. I think I am extraordinarily liberal. Far be it from me to judge another parent for their parenting decisions, but I think you have to have a really great reason to show Call of Duty, let alone let them play to a 6-year-old, a really great reason. And I suspect this was more in the camp of, parental marketing than it was in the camp of, child motivated, right? And I suspect that also is something behind Activision Blizzard's decision, that I don't think they want to encourage the sort of behavior where 6-year-olds are live streaming the game to create celebrity status, right?
Well, this is interesting, guys. Mark just linked this, and I went to go look. This is from this morning. Viral video of 6-year-old being banned was faked for a competition.
The whole
and it was faked in an attempt to progress in a competition held by FaZe Clan. Which is even more
Wait, which part was fake? The fact that he was banned was fake? What was faked?
He said the banning was fake. That's it. Activision has done nothing wrong. because supposedly there was an outpouring of anger from fans toward Activision Blizzard.
Okay, but then why have age restrictions?
The whole story is stupid.
The stream was edited to
Yeah.
show a permanently banned alert. And FaZe sort of distanced themselves and says what finalists choose to do and how they approach these challenges is being assessed, but not the quantitative results. I mean, I guaranteed FaZe doesn't care that this was,
Yeah, FaZe is literally
the ethical standard at FaZe Clan is pretty low. That
all right, well,
bar.
we look uninformed. Thanks for all of our hot takes being absolutely. But by the way, there, not to silver lining this, it shows you how much of esports content production is. It reminds me of those videos that like used to go viral back in the early days of YouTube, like the fake family videos, like somebody dropping the Christmas turkey or something, that just aren't like, that's sort of where we are in esports right now, where there's such a surfeit of content. Like you actually need to start to fake a lot of the content. And I think it's,
He's the
we'll see
balloon
where
boy
it
of
takes us.
esports. Do you guys remember Balloon Boy?
Who's Balloon Boy? No, I don't.
Those parents that lied about their kids being trapped in a weather balloon, and there was like a massive manhunt for him, and then he was just like in the attic, and he went on live TV, and he's like, "I hid up here because my dad said we had to fake it for TV."
Oh my god, he is the modern day Balloon Boy. Guys, let's move on from this. This was an interesting piece of news, not so much for the person involved, but the theme here. This is from Deadline.com. The headline: former Netflix exec Shauna Spenley joins Riot Games as global president of entertainment. I don't know Shauna, but that's not why I wanted to talk about this. Really, I wanted to talk about sort of what they announced here. It says the video game publisher known for titles including League of Legends and Valorant announced that Spenley will spearhead Riot Games' expansions into the world of entertainment through animation, consumer products, film, television, music, and beyond. We're thrilled to bring Shauna on board to expand our IP to new mediums as League of Legends continues to evolve into much more than a game, said Mark Merrill, co-founder and co-chairman Riot Games. This is major, guys, right? Like, we see a lot of talk about this, but very few large studios actually doing it. Do we think Riot's going to do this right?
Why do you think this is major and not just, whatever a lot of other studios have done? Just that they're bringing someone internally? Because, we've seen a lot of studios, like Blizzard has, Netflix series that they're doing.
How many shows has Blizzard done around their IP? How many movies other than the horrible Warcraft movie? How many, how many music videos? How many consumer the reality is a lot of them give lip service to this. But almost no one has really done it well. Not that I can think of.
Why is that? Why? I guess what about this made you think that was different?
Because Blizzard just hired that guy from baseball to be head of their Owl League. And it was such a huge, I'm not over it. It's been months.
Why is that? How on earth is that different than hiring someone from Netflix to
who's
run
actually in charge of original content that people like and part of the largest streaming service?
Yeah, I think this
different.
But someone who is in charge of Major League Baseball, clearly knows a thing or two about running a profitable, successful.
That's debatable.
That's debatable for a while, and Netflix originals are now winning Oscars. So
baseball makes a lot of money.
It just fits. It's less. I think the hire is compelling, but it's more like Riot has a track record of doing what they say they're going to do, and they have a track record of taking the league IP into other areas like music. They have done very well with, is it KDA is the league brand, the league band, right? So I personally think they could do movies, they could do TV, they'll have no problem with it. I sort of think it's interesting that it's announced this way. I thought it would be the other way, and it would be Netflix announces exclusive original series based on League of Legends character Annie, and Tibbers or whatever, right? I kind of thought it would be the outside hunting the content, not the IP holder, but it also goes to show you more and more the successful game companies run themselves like Disney. And I'll say this for the rest of my life, the best companies turn into Disney. That's the way to go. If you ever have a doubt about the right strategic direction, copy Disney, you'll do just fine. And certainly being the IP holder running the content creation is very in line with the Disney strategy. So we'll see what happens here.
I guess my take was more like, how is this different than what other people have done? Your guys' argument is that you think they will actually execute on the game plan, which is probably fair. And I'm not doubting that. Riot's a great organization. They have great IP and they can maybe execute. But just hiring, a successful executive from Netflix, I mean, plenty of other organizations have done similar things, brought in seasoned executives from, into the world that, they're trying to get into. It doesn't always work. So I guess that was my point of why we thought this was so revolutionary, because it seemed to me like almost like a very obvious thing to do. Hey, we want to get into content. Let's hire someone from Netflix. Like,
it's because none of the big players
and yet no one
have
has
got into content successfully. Really.
Yeah.
It does seem so obvious.
They've all tried to do it. So I guess my point is, this isn't different until they do something different. So far, they've done exactly
correct. But it's the first time we're hearing formally that Riot is taking steps to do it and do it internally, right?
Yeah.
To William's point, partnership is something you would think would happen more often, right? I think the reality is these companies are so big at this point and have such egos at this point that no one wants to lend their IP to Netflix. No, like Riot looks at this, I'm sure, and goes, like, if we can make a game and it takes 5 years, like, we can make a 2-hour movie. This is not right. This is not rocket science. We're going to leverage our IP and put out a movie here. I think Riot, more than anyone, to William's point, seems to execute some of these things better. Whether they do that here or not, I don't know, but they have a track record of executing well on any new thing that they do, whether it's Valorant or whatever, right? New game or new esports Valorant initiative or
really tick the box. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens here, guys. We don't know, but you're right. It's one data point. Doesn't mean much by itself. It's more data point plus track record.
I don't know. I know who this is, Okan, but I don't know how to even say this new name. Okane, this is huge, dude. Wow, I think I agree. If they execute, right? If it's just an announcement and it's just more lip service, in 2020, the fact that no huge game studio has done a big successful movie plus TV series, plus a series of consumer products, right? It's crazy to me.
But to be fair, guys, right? To be fair, it's because if you're Activision, if you're EA and you have to put out Call of Duty, or Activision Blizzard, you have to put out Call of Duty, whatever it is, you're built on a live service model. You aren't built. Like, the reason why they're not doing it is also just organizationally they're set up to do something very different. That's the whole thing we just saw with Cyberpunk, right? What's interesting is Riot has not been on that annual release treadmill, right? They have not been League of Legends 2. Now, they have been on a games as a service model, but it is interesting to see what business does not do annual releases and does more single artisan content and does just fine. Disney. There was Aladdin. Took a really long time to get Aladdin 2, and a lot of people say that one doesn't even count, right? So it is interesting to see that content might fit better with this more, boutique, approach. And it goes back to your point, Paul. Cyberpunk should have been a movie, right? Like, maybe it should have. Maybe CDPR should have done a movie studio, and we'd have fixed a lot of problems here.
Spend a year, put out a movie, and then go back to making a game, right? Like, there's no reason why they can't. Chris says esports showing shades of I was a child pageant star. Yeah. It looks Kanye says it looks like they're just hiring the goats of all industries. There's a bigger objective here. Yeah, I mean, they have the resources to do that. And content is king right now. So I'm not surprised. Now, I want to move on. Speaking of consumer products and brand extensions here, this article caught my attention. The headline here is Man City Stars show off new FaZe Clan merch collab. It caught my attention not because I actually don't care about the FaZe Clan merch collab, but what I do want to talk about is the Business of Esports merch. Because that's the merch you really should care about, not the FaZe Clan one. And so if you go to the businessofesports.com, you'll notice
segue.
This was never my entrance.
There's a
What
new
a
link
segue.
called Shop. You guys like that one? Which, if you click on it, takes you to the Business of Esports shop, which you can also find at businessofesports.shop. Here, I'll make it easy for everyone. I will post it in the chat. And I highly recommend checking out everything we've got up there now. There's some very cool socks, Business of Esports socks. We've got hoodies. We've got T-shirts with our logo on it. If you're like me and you hate aim assist, you can rock Gamers Against Aim Assist very proudly. And most importantly, I think, the ongoing competition between William and I, we have 2 shirts. They're limited edition. We ordered only a very small number of them. A Team Professor shirt, okay, and a Team Profit shirt. And there's nothing at stake here other than bragging rights and ego, really. But I will say, and I said it on the podcast, I am behind 2 shirts, guys, okay? William is outselling me by 2 shirts. And this is completely unacceptable, okay? So for everyone watching right now, go buy a Team Profit shirt, because you know that's the one you want deep down, not the Team Professor shirt, okay? Because the last thing you want is me to be hosting this show week after week, knowing that the Team Professor shirt outsold mine, right? This is an outcome no one wants here. William, you agree, right?
Guys, I gotta tell you, I want Paul to expand the shop and put out more merchandise.
It's coming.
If his shirt doesn't outsell mine, there won't be a store. Like, he'll take it down. So,
like a baseball hat or like a winter hat.
Good idea.
I want to take a moment to call out that I spent like $200 on those socks, though. Those socks are incredible. And I would say, while you are buying a Team Profit shirt, please buy those socks, because they're awesome. They just look good. They're like, honestly, they are just a good, like, you can wear them in business settings. You can wear them casual. You can wear them on the beach if you are socks on the beach type of person, which is...
No, don't wear them with sandals. Yeah. It's the only place I forbid you from wearing my socks.
Totally can wear them with sandals.
I wear socks and Birks all the time.
What's that?
Socks and Birkenstocks. Come on.
Yeah. I thought that was like there's some great stuff here, guys. So, you know, we're proud to have
all jokes aside, go check it out. We really appreciate it. If you guys buy anything, support the live stream, support us. And it's just
support Team Profit.
It proves that you're a more knowledgeable esports person when you wear this. I mean, you automatically get some of those prophetic powers. Not guaranteed, but you know, probably. Jeff, what were you going to say?
I was just saying I got a pair of the blue socks and the sweatshirt, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the next live stream, you're going to have to wear them.
Yeah, probably will. I can't leave my apartment to pick them up, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Let's move on, guys. Thank you for allowing me that. Merch looks really good, so I wanted to show it to everyone. By the way, actually, I forgot, William, you should have reminded me. We had Neil on the podcast, and Neil Duffy said, when the podcast drops tomorrow, anyone who comments, likes, retweets, whatever on the podcast, the post, we will enter in a giveaway. Neil's going to buy them an item from the shop. So he's going to pay for it, and it's going to get shipped to you. To one lucky person who comments on his episode of the podcast tomorrow, which is very nice of him.
We give something away tonight. Let's give something away. Come on.
No, next week we'll do 2 giveaways next week, because I will say, because it's going to be a Christmas themed show next week.
Come on,
Jeff. I want to go to a casino to you now too. You're like, let's go, make it happen.
There will be a giveaway. The way to win, the second way to win something next week is I will be giving away one item from the store to anyone who posts. Like, we're going to pick one from anyone who posts their Spotify most listened to, and Business of Esports is on it. So if Business of Esports was one of your most listened to podcasts of the year, and you post it, I had put this out on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to do the giveaway next week with the Neil Duffy giveaway. But of all the people who posted that Business of Esports was one of their most listened to podcasts, one of you guys or girls is going to win a piece of merch from the shop. Okay. Martin, if you don't listen on Spotify, but you show where you listen somewhere else, that I don't care, right? Like if you have 100 episodes listened to and you post that, that's just as good. So it doesn't have to be Spotify specific. Any proof that you're a regular listener of the podcast will do. Okay. Let's move on, guys. Let's talk about some more news here. We've got what do you guys want to talk about? We've got esports tournament Face It using AI. We've got the Game Awards. You guys want to talk about the Game Awards?
Your favorite?
Anyone watch them?
Yeah. Were you
Yeah, let's
invited
talk about
to
game.
MC, Paul?
We can talk about J.J. Abrams if we're on this sort of movie
Oh, let's
game.
do JJ. Let's do
You want to
JJ.
do J.J.?
Love me
Okay.
some JJ. No, we have to do JJ. This is going to be a good one. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So this was from Variety.com. The headline here was J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot Games forms in-house studio led by gaming vet Mike Booth. So Bad Robot Games, which is a division of J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot production company, hired Mike Booth to run its newly created in-house game development studio. So Booth is known for Left 4 Dead, having made Left 4 Dead, and brings experience like from Blizzard and Electronic Arts, etc. So the idea is this new studio is going to build AAA titles for PC console platforms designed to immerse players and streaming audiences in a cinematic experience. So more movies parading as games from the sounds of it.
Sounds like they should have developed Cyberpunk.
And look, I have beef to pick with JJ in general. He's ruined Star Trek. He's ruined Star Wars. There's nothing left for him to ruin for me other than games.
Okay,
So
okay.
I truly feel like this is a personal vendetta, but
Can we
how
hash
do you
out
guys
the
feel about this?
wait? Can we? I want to hash out the J.J. Abrams conversation because I like me some JJA. Like,
Okay.
yeah, I do.
Yeah, you like
And
the Star Trek reboot he did, and you like the Star
Hold
Wars
on.
movies he did. You're just a big fan.
Hold on. Hear me out. JJ, let's just call him J because I feel like I know him so well.
J squared.
J, just J squared. Yeah, to his buddies, J squared. Yeah, J squared. Okay, this is off topic. We're gonna have to shout, right? J squared. Okay, so he's done some really good movies, guys. Like his found footage film. What was that called? Cloverfield. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. I thought it was cinematic. Look, I'll also be on record as saying I think Lost is total junk. Like, and I called that was going nowhere fast season 1. It was just a bunch of clips. But I'll so far as say I enjoy his Star Trek reboots. Look, are they the Star Trek I grew up with? No. But do I think that they are fun romps through a universe with Klingons? And yeah, they work for me. And I'll even go to bat for episode 7, believe it or not. Structurally, yeah, would I change a few things? Yes. But as a setup to a trilogy, episode 7 is a darn good movie. And honestly, the only reason episode 7 has not aged as well as I think it could have is because it didn't set anything up, because that wasn't managed. The Star Wars, the last trilogy of Star Wars films were not set up and managed like a trilogy. They were managed as a series of one-offs. And as a result, there was really no shared narrative storytelling. Okay, that aside. But yes, episode 9 was awful. It's tough to forgive it from that. Fine. That's my soapbox done.
Okay, can we get the industry perspective? Because industry perspective, William, on JJ getting into building cyberpunk-like games, evidently, right? It's become the theme of the podcast and the live stream, which is, why does everything have to be a game? If you're producing cinematic experiences, why does he need a game studio? Why not just go? Martin,
why does
I draw the line at episode 7, William? Guys, buy a Team Profit shirt. Team Professor likes episode 7. Okay,
I do. I like episode 7, guys. Don't hate. Look, I even took my glasses off for it. That's how much I like it. Look, the reality is, I didn't take a step further, Paul. Why does every game have to be ultra immersive? Why can't we have, storybook style games with limited interactivity? Like,
then they're not really games.
Yeah,
if you're not interacting,
don't call them games. Call them games. But there is a spectrum of interactivity with media, and not everything needs to be fully immersive, fully responsive, fully customizable all the way to the right. And I would be interested if J.J. Abrams were doing a Black Mirror Bandersnatch style game, right? I could be interested in it. I do have a problem of I'm good at making movies, so I'll be good at making games too, because they both involve storytelling. Because in my history, that is literally never. I cannot think of a single example where that analogy has worked out. Starting with you, Spirits Within. How dare you? How dare
It
you?
is a bigger question. Like, to me, Candy Crush is more of a game than Cyberpunk is.
Oh,
Wow.
whoa.
Candy Crush is more of a game than Cyberpunk 2077.
Can you elaborate?
Clip, put that on Twitter, put that on
Right?
YouTube.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
you just
and
went
that's how we
viral.
saw
That
that
is.
all gaming isn't even real gaming clips.
This is what I mean. I watched Cyberpunk. I did not participate in Cyberpunk. Whereas Candy Crush, I can't watch it. I have to do something, even if it's fiddling with my thumbs on a phone. Right? Like, I still had to do something. Greg says, choose your own adventure. I don't know if that's what JJ's going to do here, because that doesn't seem to be the trend, right? The trend in single player games seems to be these much more cinematic experiences. And it's unclear why anyone would want to take on all the sort of the resource and intensive quality of game building when you can do a much lighter movie and tell the same story, right? Like, producing a game today, AAA cinematic experience, takes years and costs a lot more money than an equivalent 2.5 hour movie would, or 2 hour movie would. I don't understand the business reasoning here behind why you would want to do that, other than this feels like J squared hopping on the gaming bandwagon, right? It feels a little bandwagonish to me, and I don't know if it's sincere or was going to be executed well. I have serious doubts. Let's put
How
it that way.
does Death Stranding and Hideo Kojima and that how does that fit in for you? Because that was a little bit more cinematic.
Lindsay, I'm laughing because William talks about this on the podcast specifically. I almost don't want to say it. Listen to the podcast tomorrow. But there's like a hot take from William regarding Hideo Kojima,
who I love, by the way. Sorry, Hideo, but you should.
Martin says, this is why I have issue with The Last of Us cleaning up at the Game Awards. Most of the storytelling isn't interactive.
Yes, let's do Game Awards. Can we do Game Awards?
A segue.
Wow, Martin.
It's like you guys are managing the show for me.
Yeah.
This is becoming so good between us and you guys that you're directing the show at this point more than we are, which I love. This is from nerdsandbeyond.com. The headline was, The Last of Us Part 2 was the big winner at the Game Awards 2020. It won Game of the Year, Best Narrative, Best Action Adventure, Best Audio Design, Innovation in Accessibility, Best Game Direction, and Best Performance for Laura Bailey as Abby. That's a lot of awards. Look, I don't want to get into, is this a good game or not? Is it deserved or not? But there is a discussion here around, can we really call this the Game Awards if, 90% plus cutscene games are winning game awards? It would sort of like be an episode of Seinfeld winning an Oscar. Right? Like, they're two different mediums.
That's a fair analogy. It would be more like a book read aloud winning Best Picture, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, that might be the way. Wow, that's a good analogy. I'm going to save that. That's a good one. But look, like, it's tough for me to criticize Naughty Dog because I did not like Last of Us 2. I didn't, right? It's tough for me to criticize Naughty Dog because there's so much artistry in that game. I mean, like, Ellie reacts to the rain. Like, if you're underwater, there's like little idle animations for her, like keeping the water. It's the clothes dry in real time. Like, it's pretty incredible. So there's real artistry. I will say, like, it's the same true of The Last of Us. It wasn't a fun game to play. And I do have issues with games that aren't a great game experience winning the Game Awards. But at the same time, without litigating it, like, I also think, as I said, interactivity is a spectrum. It is definitely a game. It doesn't finish itself if you don't pick up the controller. I think we have to be comfortable with this idea that in some years, some games that are more interactive will win, and in other years, ones that are less will. And hopefully that grows the maturity of the medium until we have better words to describe the degree of player input required.
But that's a whole rabbit hole, William, which I want to go down 2 seconds here. Because last week we talked about a Forbes most valuable esports company list, right?
Yep.
And we were willing to let slide a company whose revenues from esports were only 6%, right? At what percentage of interactive content do we start or stop considering something a game, right? Is it less than 2%, 5%?
I mean, I don't know who the selection committee for this is, but I feel the same way watching the Oscars. I mean, there's movies that are made for movie people that I think are complete trash to the general public because the artistry is way beyond anything I want to be entertained by.
Tell us some of those, Lindsay. Lindsay, don't spare us. Give us, what movies do you not think deserve? I want to know.
I'm not a movie person.
I don't want to go down the movie rabbit hole.
Silver Playbook was the first time I realized I was not a movie person because I was like, wow, 2.5 hours of nothing and it won an Oscar.
On the business side of things, you asked a good question, William, which is, or Lindsay, you asked a good question, which is who's the selection committee?
Right.
To me, the Game Awards have always been the biggest sellouts of the entire game industry, fundamentally, right? It's a 2-hour show or 3-hour show. It's so long, I can't watch even 3 minutes of it. But most of the show is paid advertising from game companies, right? It's what they call a world premiere. What they call a world premiere is Game Studio XYZ paid to have their game advertised on the Game Awards. I can almost guarantee you the winners of these awards are all paid placement. This is all paid, like this is all sponsored content. There should have been hashtag ad throughout the whole show, in my opinion. I don't know if that's true, but it's probably a good guess.
Martin also raises a really good point in the chat. Martin, you're on it. Like his most recent comment, there is also discussion on whether studios known for intense crunch can truly be eligible to win Best Direction awards. That's kind of an interesting one too, is like,
he says, do we want as an industry to encourage studios in behaving this way?
Yeah,
look, I have very strong feelings on this, so I don't know. You guys,
what are your strong feelings, Paul?
I toe and I'm going to paraphrase, but because it's been a long time. But when we had Strauss Zelnick on the podcast, we asked him about this, right? Yeah. About crunch at Take-Two and the developers there being unhappy or expressing some unhappiness and things like that. And I think he had a very sort of good sort of both sides take on it, which is one, yes, we need to take care of our people, right? We need to care about their mental health, physical health, etc. And we put systems in place to care about those things, right? HR, whatever. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, these are highly mobile, usually young, very, very well-paid professionals, right? And if they're unhappy somewhere because of the working environment, they can very easily go somewhere else, right? Most of these people are making significant, like not entry-level six figures, significantly higher six figures. And so his view was, they're professional. And if they're not happy fundamentally, even with those sort of structures in place, they have a lot of mobility.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with that point a little bit at a time. That's a bit like, you're a coal miner. It's sort of what it's like to mine coal, and there's plenty of coal mines around. I know it's different.
It's not coal because it's not going to kill them, right?
Yeah. Well,
you and I are answering emails till 10 p.m.
Yeah,
it's not going to kill us.
I do think that in general, as an industry, it's easy to complain about crunch when in reality people who work in movies have to do 16-hour shoots. It's creative industries, it's tough. But I don't want to minimize. I really am concerned about the trend I see, which is that, and I think Cyberpunk is going to exacerbate this, by the way, because they were the whole no crunch studio and then they crunched, right? I think the reality is the need to have regular releases and the need to have them be a high level of polish, both of which Cyberpunk underscores for different reasons, incentivizes this type of behavior. And the reality is people have such passion for the industry that they will do it. Because if you've sunk 2 or 3 years of your life into a game, you're going to sink another 3 months if they're tough to get it where it needs to be, right? But I do understand that as a studio and as a like direct, like, is this something, should there be a category of, you know, best project managed game, right, where we penalize studios for this? And the reality is we don't do it in any other creative industries, because we just kind of recognize at the end, like, it's the experience that stands the test of time and not how the experience itself was produced, right? We don't give an award to a film for largest special effects budget, right? We just say film with best special effects. And if you have a large special effects budget, you probably have a better shot at winning it. And I think the Strauss analogy holds there, which is, if you want to make really good games and attract top people, over time as a studio, you can't sustain if what you're doing is really so anomalous from the industry. So
it's one of those things where you won't see any venture capital funds popping up with like a mandate to invest in the startups where people leave closest to 5 p.m. right? Like, it's just the nature of some of these industries is it's long hours, and as long as the people are compensated for that, right, fairly, and have the ability to move around if need be, it's pretty hard to make an argument against it. Because again, the reality is they're making lots of money. The studios are making lots of money. The employees are making lots of money. It's just the nature of that business.
You know, sometimes that's not always the case. You know, some of these, like the QA testers, like a lot of them aren't, you know, super highly paid. And then sometimes they only get bonus based on how the game performs. And if it doesn't perform, they don't get paid. You know, and Jason Schreier's done a ton of great work on this. So I think there is a problem in the industry, but, you know, I also am sympathetic to what you're saying, Paul, where it's like, look, if you have a job that you don't like and, you know, your boss is being mean and telling you to work, you have two choices. You either do it or you find another job to some extent. You know, it's not like if these people were be putting in physical danger, it's like, hey, you're working in a mine shaft and you're down there for 14-hour shifts, people are like collapsing and dying. Yeah, then like that's like, hey, we need like regulators to step in. But, you know, here, and I get there's mental issues that come about, and like it is physically draining to work those hours, but like, you know, you're sitting at a desk at a computer and working 12-hour days. Like,
no, but
a lot of people do that. That's not super.
Like, and I've never seen a tech startup achieve greatness, right? Ever in the 20 years I've been in this industry, without every employee at the company working long, hard hours. Like it just doesn't happen.
It is true that the businesses that rock. Oh, go Jeff, go.
I was just saying, tech startups generally equity is part of the deal. I don't know if that's as common at you know, game
usually
studios.
To replace salary. In this case, most of the people at the game studios are quite well paid, right? Because the studios are profitable.
Martin is right too.
It's a problem. The market should fix itself.
Yeah, but Martin is right too, that like that's like the argument we're making. Well, that's just the way it is. Isn't a great argument. You know what I mean? Like,
but it is a good argument. It is, because
I take it.
William, you run Studio A, I run Studio B, right?
Yeah.
I make my people work 12-hour days. Yours work 8-hour days. Which studio do you think is going to be successful? And yeah, I may lose a few people to your studio over the years.
And there's an argument for Studio C, who has good managers like a Strauss, who doesn't, you know, who figures out a way to manage expectations with Wall Street or whoever their, you know, financing partners are. Make sure they're, you know, adequately providing resources so you don't have to crunch and you can create great games. I mean, that's the panacea. Like, that's the perfect world. But I agree, you know, it's going to be all about the talent moving from Studio A to Studio B to Studio C, not like some, you know, regulator coming in and saying, hey, Paul, you're too mean. Like, your employees need to leave at 5 o'clock and like get free dinner on their way out.
But we do also overrate the portability of employees, because the reality is in the industry, you sort of have to finish the games you work on, right? Like, if you're somebody who never works on games and never ships them, right? You're like my understanding is that is not well perceived in the games industry. If you're, you know, a year here, a year there, and you never see titles from dev through launch, right? So the reality is there is some lock-in, and there's personal investment. Like I said, if you've developed a game for 2 years, you're gonna really feel a lot of pressure to finish the title, right? To like get it out, to see the world, to see it like come to fruition, even if it doesn't necessarily make the most physical, mental sense, right? And I can also tell you, like, for people I know have spouses in the industry, right? Like, that's really hard. Like, they don't come home, you know? And look, all of this is true in other industries, but I do think there's a point, which is games are particularly susceptible to this because games are so not fun until they are. If you talk to anybody in games development, they say games are bad for 90% of their runway, and then it's the last 10% of dev where everything clicks, everything comes together, and you have something special. And this is why like BioWare would refer to like the BioWare magic and all of that stuff. It's that games are deeply layered multiple systems. The emergent behavior, the emergent fun from those systems often manifests late in a title, and it means there needs to be a lot of correction and adjustment at the end of a title's life cycle. I do think, though, there's an argument for as Jeff said, like, okay, if there's going to be a crunch period, triggering crunches earlier, if that there's going to be, having guiding strategic management decisions earlier so that teams can have more time with stable planning runways. Yeah, all of that's true. And I actually really do take your point, Martin. I think we need to think carefully, because anytime somebody says that's just the way it is, it's not really a good argument for anything, because if you can imagine a world where it's different, why not try to make it happen? Even
go do it different. You won't stay in business very long.
Yeah,
just the reality.
How do you do it, right? Like, a lot of customers like to talk about how they don't, people are concerned about this, and they probably should be, but people still play these games where there was crunch, right? Red Dead Redemption.
True, yeah. I don't not buy a game because there was crunch on it. Yeah.
Speak with your wallet. Like, if you don't buy Cyberpunk, if you were concerned about the crunch, and then the market will kind of correct itself. So
well, but I think what we're saying though is that the concession would be on the talent side is, hey, we're a no crunch studio, but you're paid 20% less. Like, is that a trade-off people would make?
Hard work always needs to be managed properly. I don't want you guys to get the impression that it's like
yeah.
I've had lots of employees over my career. They all love working hard for me, right? It's the environment you create. And William, to your point, building a game is no different than building anything else. Like building a startup, it's only fun in the end, right? Like the exit is the fun part. The 12-hour days leading up to that is not fun, right? But you go at it with some purpose. And if you can create that environment of purpose and an environment of shared sort of goals and vision and things like that, the right people with the right attitude will work hard, right? And not feel like it's a burden. And
have I brought up Cory Balog recently, the guy who makes God of War, the God of War director? Like, all the quotes about working for Cory Balog, and again, I don't know if these are true or not. I've never worked for Cory Balog. I've read them anecdotally, but they summarize what you want in a game manager, right? They say, like, how did we know if we were doing good work? We took it to Cory. If he liked it, we did more of it. If he didn't like it, we did something different. And why did we work hard? Because we wanted Cory to like our work. Like, that is, in my mind, it's a little bit of a despot, but in my mind, that's the sort of charisma and influence that good managers do exude, right? They're people that you want to please, and they're people who you trust when they give you feedback, right? Like, their feedback is probably right. Like, nobody's saying like their direction, their vision for something is a path you want to go down. So I'm always a fan of the Cory Balog quotes.
Aldrich's comment, I think, agrees with us and what I said and what we said, William, which is it's all about management. I'm a management consultant and work 14-hour days on a typical week. Really all depends on the team and the direction that makes a project manageable. I agree. And to Chris's point, good leadership, right? And this is why, to Jeff's point, where I agree wholeheartedly, is these are free markets of people, ideas, resources, right? They're all free markets that operate freely with no real regulation changing anything. And therefore, if there was a game studio where there's a significant advantage to never having crunch time, to never overworking people, to everyone's gets 6 weeks of vacation a year, right? If there was a market advantage to doing that, it would exist and it would be successful. It doesn't exist for a reason. And it's because that's the nature of the industry, whether we like to hear that or not. And William, whether you like it, or Martin, whether you like it, hard work is the only way to build great things. And long hours is the only way to build great things. There's just no shortcuts.
And look, sure, that doesn't mean that at the end of the day there can't be a reward, or you can't be doing it in a decent manner where it's like, the manager is a reasonable person and, hey, this person needs to be off because his kid is sick.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, get back to your desk. Like, this is
I'm not. This comes back to good management, right?
Pick things up, put things down. But like you said, these are hard projects. You're working towards a goal. It's creative. It's going to take time, labor. It's a labor of love to some extent. But like everyone's been saying, you need the management to guide that process. And that's kind of the secret sauce to having it reasonable versus exploitative.
A bad manager will make their a bad manager will make their employees miserable, even in a 6-hour workday, right? Like if the management is bad, even if you have the most lazy job possible, right? Chances are you will still be miserable. It starts with the management and the leadership, of course, but I think people have to accept the realities of the industry and what they're trying to do here, which is create something from nothing. And that is always the biggest hurdle. Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
Okay,
Hold on.
Lindsay has the final say.
Yeah, Lindsay, go, Lindsay. Yeah.
There is a big difference between bad management and good management, but I would like to see voices in the community that call out bad management more amplified, particularly because I've read a lot of really horrifying stories about especially women, and especially during pregnancy, being really screwed over by studios and crunch, and then losing future career opportunities as a result of that. And that's completely unfair. So I have no issue with working 16 to 18-hour days. I have no issue with fair compensation. I have no issue with working towards a goal and pushing your employees to make the best possible product you can make. What I take issue with is when those conditions aren't met. And when those conditions aren't met, I do believe that the community itself should be the ones to decide that. I don't believe it should be regulated because I do think that the free market model works better. But those types of things should be amplified within the community, and game developers and publishers should pay attention to that and at least attempt to make a change. Now, whether the community does choose to hurt them with their pockets or not that I think that should be completely relevant or irrelevant, but if you have a large enough mass of people telling you you're putting your employees in danger, you should be reconsidering your position, particularly when it comes to the treatment of women.
I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good
don't buy
point.
if you don't like crunch, don't buy Cyberpunk. It's not a good game anyways.
No, but that is a very good point though. Like, just to reiterate, these things always fall unequally, right? Like these, and I think you have to be careful with again, like anything that is the status quo, this is the way it is. Those arguments always also have an underpinning of inequality in my experience.
William, I said Lindsay has the final say, so I'm going to cut you off.
Sorry, shut up. Okay.
I want to finish on this.
But you're right. That is the problem with this is the way things are. Because things aren't equitable.
And I want to bring this up because look, it's fun when we have an insider on any story. And Jeff, this is your company, and it's from yesterday. I'm curious what this means exactly, because it's kind of a cool headline. Right, Eagles becomes first NFL team with esports tournament provider. Does this mean? And I'm actually, I wasn't aware of this. No other NFL team has their own, like, does no other NFL team, has none other thought through sort of how they're going to put on esports for their own fans?
No.
Yeah. No. Lindsay's absolutely right. I mean, this is the first deal sort of its kind. Super exciting. Obviously, the Eagles are a great brand, great franchise. One of the things we found during the pandemic is all these sports teams struggling to engage their fans, without being able to, a lot of them aren't able to have fans in the stands, and all of their fans are gamers. All of their players are gamers. So what we've come up with is, we think a really great model where we can help them engage their fans, give their fans experiences that money can't buy. So what we're doing is hosting a series of tournaments with a lot of these teams where there'll be like swag that they're playing for, experiences, whether it's season tickets, coming to the owner's lounge, meeting, the quarterback, whatever it may be. And we're putting on those tournaments with them on their platform, on our platform. And yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's crazy to me that, again, we're like the end of 2020 and the Eagles are the first to make this move. Like one NFL team has made this move.
This is why the NBA is highly superior in every way.
No, but I mean, it's interesting because there's obviously I have a funny feeling this is where we see the dominoes fall with the NFL, right? Like it takes one or two to sort of make a move, and then everyone, I assume, will have to move accordingly. And I think it's cool that you guys are involved. On that note, guys, I want to wrap up 3 things. One, tune into the podcast tomorrow. It's a great episode with Neil Duffy. Don't forget, we are going to do 2 giveaways next week, one specific around the podcast tomorrow, and one around our regular listeners of the podcast, as I mentioned. 2, go buy some merch, businessofesports.shop, or you can get to it from the website, thebusinessofesports.com, and there's a shop link. Buy a Profit shirt. Even if you buy a Professor shirt, I still love you. You're
buy both, as I said, buy both. Yeah. Don't choose,
because I love William, and so anyone who wants to put his
silence.
face on their chest all day long is a friend of mine. And so, but go check out the merch. The socks are really cool. The hoodies are really cool. All of it's really nice, I promise. And then third, we do this every week, guys. If you like the live stream, come back every Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We love making it interactive. Tell your friends about it. If they're into esports, if they're into the business side of esports at all, please tell everyone about it. Thank you guys again. Thank you for everyone who tunes in every week. Thank you for all the podcast listens. Thank you for all the love and support. William, thank you as always. Lindsay, you're awesome. Thank you. Jeff, I hope you get better by next week. I hope next week we don't see you worse. And I hope you're going to make it next week. But thank you again to everybody. And we will see you guys next week.